Winning back the boys in Caribbean education. The Guyana situation. Guyana is located on the northeast coast of South America. Despite an abundance of natural resources, it is the second poorest country in the Americas. Guyana is divided into 11 education districts. 10 of these correspond with the administrative and geographical regions of the country, while the capital, Georgetown, is treated as a separate education district. The formal education system of Guyana has, at its lowest level, nursery education, then spirals upwards through primary, secondary, technical or vocational education and training, and teacher training to university, the highest level. In Guyana, formal education is available at no tuition cost to students from the nursery to secondary levels. Statistics for the years 2004-2005 show that 95% of the student population is at the primary level. Boys make up 51% and girls 49%. The percentage average attendance by children at this level is 76%, with 76% being males and 77% being females. The percentage of children who completed the primary cycle was 75%.
If we look at what happens at the end of primary when children do what we call the secondary school entrance examinations, girls outperform the boys significantly. Nearly 3,000 more girls will get into general secondary, while a majority of the boys get into primary tops and community high schools.
The percentage average dropout rate at this level for boys and girls is 4%. Secondary education is delivered in 3 types of institutions: secondary departments of primary schools, community high schools, and general secondary schools. The average attendance is the highest at the general secondary level, with an average rate of 76.5%. The rate at the secondary departments of primary and community high schools is 57.5%. At these schools, the attendance of boys is lower than that of girls. The highest repetition rates seem to be at the community high and general secondary schools, with 15% and 12% respectively. Between genders at this level, more boys are repeating than girls. The percentage average dropout rate at this level is highest at the secondary departments of primary and community high schools, and the lowest at the general secondary level. At the tertiary level, students can attend the University of Guyana. There are more female than male graduates.
And the majority of the students who come out on top, you'd mainly find them being girls.
Most of the time, some girls, the mothers that behind them for push them for do more work.
That it's not boys underperforming, it's boys underparticipating. In other words, they're not in school when they ought to be in school because they're doing other things.
I grew up in a single-parented family which was plagued with the social phenomenon poverty.
Poverty, that is the underlying cause of everything else.
Me and my 2 brothers, we grew up in extreme poverty. And I believe that really contributes a lot.
In the hinterland, I can also tell you that boys need to be with the families quite a lot to learn the male role. For example, what you do to earn a living in the hinterland and so forth. Farming, fishing, and so forth.
Some of the boys, they have too many distractions.
Well, we lads have a lot to distract us. Mainly lasses, of course.
Some children, there's one still woman come to school because they're just writing all the time, don't get to do anything.
I go on gamble, teach people things and so.
The classroom tends to be more receptive to girls, so boys feel out of place in a female-dominated classroom.
Maybe because they can't handle the work or they don't have the knowledge, and when they fail once, they feel like they can't make it.
They look to get money at an early age, right? And they don't see the long-term benefit of going to school.
Seeing how long you living on the street, Sharon?
3 years.
3 years? And how come you end up being on the street?
My mother died and my father gone in the boat.
I left on the show 11 years now.
And how you survive in 11 years?
Beg, thief, work all in man. I get accustomed to the show like.
To gain a good education, it began for me at the age 10 when my grandmother died. I was faced with the world to myself, to fend for myself because my mother and father being incapable of fending for me. At that time, I wrote common entrance. Because of lack of good care and I being neglected due to my family situation, I dropped out of traditional in the first term of Form 2. A good Samaritan in my neighborhood, while I was selling one day, she asked me if I'm interested in going back to school. She took me to the Ministry of Education. I went through the third form. I came out at first position on the annual examination. I went on, I wrote CXC at East Ranville Secondary School and graduating as a valedictorian, acquiring 9 subjects at CXC.
So all I write common entrance, all I get essential. And I never go back to school. As my mother said, to school and they're too far. So I thought she said it was not budget for pay for go to school. So I thought I stole me 4 years before I come here. So I used to cry and everything. Then she thought I want to go to school and learn my education.
Life at school is pretty great because you get to take part in sports and education events.
What kept me coming to school is because I know that this is the right thing to do, right? And you have to get an education in order to succeed in life.
What I like about here, you get to do a lot of physical stuff. You're not always doing theory all the time. That's what I really like about it.
Life at school for me is fun, I would say. I enjoy being in school because you get to learn a lot of new things.
Well, they should do like what my fathers do. Go out with me every morning, make sure they're in a bus, they're in the same bus, and he make sure they're in school.
You see, long ago, you had many male teachers. And many children used to try to pattern themselves off of the teachers, and they themselves would have wanted to be teachers or somebody in society.
Well, most of them need encouragement. And other than that, as soon as they come to the secondary level, you have to give them an alternative, like skills training.
For the fathers, I think if you father a child, you should be man enough to make sure that they get an education, be there for them.
Perhaps we have to change the way we teach and find avenues to incorporate them some more and to make them recognize that we want your opinion too.
You find mothers rally and fathers around their daughters and not really among the sons. So more attention should be placed on boys.
There's no other way out of poverty or out of any negative life than education.
You gotta have a dream. If you have a sense of direction early on, you have a better idea of where you're going and what you will become.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Still on the street?
No, I'm glad that y'all come and find a way for me.
Because anyone who dropped out of school to get back on that road, because that is the only road that leads to success.
In conclusion, Guyana has been making progress in making participation in schools more meaningful. The strategies projected in its strategic plan, 2003-2007, have been promising. The technical and financial support through programs such as the Education for Our Fast Track initiative, the provision of textbooks, remote area incentives for teachers, school improvement plans, UNICEF's intervention in child-friendly schools and multigrade technologies, CEDA's enhanced teacher training programs or support for our teacher training programs and learning by distance, and the ministry's accelerated program for technical and vocational skills are all part of the efforts to improve the system. And I believe part of the efforts to convince youngsters of the value of education. In the future, we hope to add to these efforts through support from UNICEF and Educare in facilitating parent education programs through the school life cycle.
Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be.